Welcome, everybody. Welcome, my fellow Ergonauts, to the newest and the most exciting episode of Ergo Pulse. And I am Dan from Japan, here to bring Ergo into the top 10. And I must say that I can do a better rhyming thing, a man, but I'm just not talented enough as a poet man.
I don't know, Dan. I thought the poetry skills were. I thought the poetry skills were.
Joe, listen. We've been working together for some time now. You don't have to bullshit me, okay? I know that's pretty mediocre, okay? My rapping career is going nowhere, okay? I look. There's just so much around that I can't compete with that, Joe. So you don't have to sugarcoat it. You have to give me hope that just doesn't exist, Joe. Don't do this to me.
Well, I'll be honest. The truth is I was just trying to get those audio NFTs on the auction house to take off. So if you ever want to drop an LP, Dan, that's where you need to start. I'm sure there'd be some people that would pick them up.
Well, I guess if William Shatner can do it, I guess I can do it too.
Yeah. So today we have a pretty exciting guest. They have their finger on the pulse of the Ergo blockchain. And guess what? Their name is not, it doesn't have Ergo in it. Now, they are a mining pool called GetBlok, and they get blocks, but that's step up, that's growth.
Yeah, very exciting to have our guest on this episode, because there's just so much around voting in the ecosystem right now with the AP27 proposal on the table. It's very important for community members to understand what exactly happens, what exactly goes on into voting. What is voting? Is it like voting, or is it kind of weird blockchainy term? Voting doesn't really mean voting, like, mining. I mean, it's mining, but it's not really like, hi ho, the mining we will go, that kind of mining. It's
I was rhyming it, and you're on fire today.
Listen, that was a cover. Okay, that was not original. That was a cover.
Oh, well, I missed the original, so it was originally here.
Yeah, well, I guess, that's right. It was original. I came up with that. All right, Joe, how about we introduce our guest?
Sure. So today we have Rob from GetBlok. They're a community-oriented mining pool on the Ergo platform. And I would recommend you take a look, listen. He's a smart guy. They're doing really neat things. So let's bring him on.
Hey, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
When I first came into the Ergo ecosystem, Nanopool was basically owning the hash rate. So one of my first tasks was to try to shake them from the majority and bring in other mining pools. So working with community mining pools is something that I'm always excited about, because I've kind of had to interact and work with all the big ones. And so seeing like the little guy come in and do neat things, to me, that's where the future's at. So hopefully we can get into what Rob's doing. And I think it's going to impress some people.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's really, really relevant with the EAP 27 proposal on the table, on the proverbial table. This is a really relevant conversation right now, and I think a lot of community members will enjoy hearing what Rob has to say and what his project is all about. So, Rob, why don't you give us a little bit of a background on GetBlok, on how it came to be? Just kind of give us a good rundown.
Sure, absolutely. So, this project started, I would say, in about August of 2021. It was literally a group of a couple of miners, myself and a few others. Literally, we were at the point where we just wanted to solo mine, right? Wanted to get away from the heavy fees. We wanted to get away from the larger pools, promote decentralization. So what we did was, we started utilizing some of the Ergo tools that were developed, open source tools that, we utilized to start mining in that sense, right? So we were using things like the NVIDIA open source miner and the Ergo Stratum server, right? And that in a sense got us away from some of these large mining pools, and we were mining on our own, right? And as we kind of started going down that path, we met up with a gentleman. His name was Karat Singh, or you may see him in the community as Cheese Enthusiast. At the time, he was actually developing subpooling for Ergo Hack 2. So we jumped in, we supported him from the miner standpoint, created a small group of miners to help, test the theory, test the process, and ultimately landed him second place in Ergo Hack 2. So what we did from there was, we kind of partnered up together, him, myself, and our other partner, Vinny, who's also all cloudy. Me kind of having a little bit of a background in business development, marketing, as well as, my connection within the Ergo community. Vinny with his, background in enterprise and cloud computing. And then obviously Karat with, his innovation in developing smart contracts. He's very knowledgeable in the space. And so collectively, we decided to form a mining pool, which in turn became a smart pool, where we leverage smart contracts to handle the ultimate payout system, right? So typically, payouts would be handled through a standard database that's controlled by the operator. And there's a lot of potential manipulation that can be done within that database, right? And that's always been one of the concerns with some of the larger mining pools out there, right? Because no one really knows what they're doing within that database. It's kind of black box. It's controlled by the operator. And things like, shares submitted, blocks found, that could all be adjusted within the database. So we took it a step further. We integrated smart contracts that we built on, the Ergo system. What we are doing with them is we're actually calculating and processing our payouts within a smart contract. So they're being stored on chain now, where any miner can, go on Ergo Explorer. They can view, basically what the smart contract is processing from a payout standpoint. And if there's any potential manipulation within the settings, right, the fees, the number of blocks, whatever the payout, whatever the situation may be, the miner can see it. It's there. It's visible. It's transparent. So, in a sense, we've created the first Ergo smart pool based on smart contracts, right? It's been attempted before. There's been Ethereum-based smart pools. However, as you may know, gas fees prohibited them from, bringing that to life, right? So it was a conceptual idea and never came to fruition. So, we basically, with the power of Ergo and obviously the strength of the community, we were able to develop the first smart pool. And it's been an interesting ride. And, outside of the transparency, there's several use cases that we can provide within the smart pool. One of the latest items that I think everyone's seen, right, was the proof of vote tokens. So we're basically, in a sense, using the pool as a framework or as a tool to distribute tokens on top of standard ERG rewards, right? So a miner can jump on our pool. They're earning ERG as they normally would, and they're also earning some proof of vote tokens where they can go and they could take those tokens, they can submit them to a smart contract during a voting period and vote yes or no. And right now we're doing it for EIP 27. However, that process can be applied to any form of governance, any, consensus that would be needed, whether it's pool based or even broader than that. So it's been a really interesting ride to get to where we're at today. And we have a lot of additional use cases that we plan to build on top of what we've done so far.
And this actually really ties into, really what Ergo is all about, right? So it's about this fair proof of work, because I guess one of the reasons why a proof of work is frowned upon by some of the blockchain community is because of what you just mentioned. There are gas fees that don't allow proper governance to happen, right? Or in the case of Bitcoin, even though it is a highly distributed network, in fact, it's one of the most decentralized networks in the world. You still have, because of the simplicity of Bitcoin, you have a lot of centralization of mining happening, right? So at one point, it was something about 50% of Bitcoin's hash rate came from something like 2 or 3 mining operations. Am I remembering that correctly?
That's correct. And the biggest challenge was that the ASIC manufacturers were actually creating their own mining pools, their own mining farms. So they found that it was actually more profitable to mine, right, versus selling the ASICs to the end user. So, it became a huge powerhouse. No one could compete against that, right? And it became challenging for some of the smaller miners that are, just looking to mine some coins, right? And at the end of the day, I think that's what started to deter your average miner from some of these larger coins, because unless you've made a major investment in ASIC equipment or, a mining farm, so to speak, it's challenging. It's not feasible at this point, right? So that's where you start to see a shift to some of these altcoins, right? And that's, where we come into play. We think that there's a lot of strength there, outside of your, some of the coins that are, much more challenging to mine these days. And we feel that Ergo, being ASIC resistant, has a long lifespan, and there will be longevity within the coin.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about how did you come up with the concept of the proof of vote, the token, the governance concept that you came up with? Just I know you already talked about it, but elaborate for us a little more, because there's actually has been a lot of questions, right, Joe, from the community about just how do you vote? How does the vote happen? I mean, people understand the concept of voting, but how do you vote in a proof of work environment? How do you vote in an EIP 27 type of scenario? How do you do that?
Sure. So, taking a step back, the way that EIP 27 voting works currently, the process was initially established for solo miners, right? I mean, before Ergo became outsourceable, there were no mining pools, right? It was solo miners who believed in the blockchain, believed in the future of it. And the way that the governance worked then was the solo miners would basically set a configuration within their node, right? And that configuration change is basically either a yes vote or a no vote. Once that's set, that's how they're voting, right? Off they go. They change their node and it's configured, and they're either voting yes or no. Since Ergo had, initiated outsourceability, right, and opened up the, allowing mining pools, it created some challenges with that, that method or that form of voting, right? So there's been some controversy where, the individual miner doesn't really get a chance to vote unless they're, again, mining solo, right? And mining solo is challenging. People think, I could just, set up a node and, mine directly to it. Well, the way the voting works is they need to find blocks, right? And in order to find blocks, you need to have a significant amount of hash power. And typically, we would say that you would want to have about 30 gigahash in order to, find blocks on a regular basis, and be able to vote in a sense, right? 30 gigahash is not an easy feat. I mean, that's multiple rigs. It's a mini farm in a sense. So we kind of took that problem, right, and tried to find a solution for it. And with our mining pool, and again with the integration of smart contracts, we always had this concept that we could distribute tokens through the mining pool, whatever that token is, right? It could be anything. So we developed proof of vote, right, which is basically, as you mine ERG, you get a 1-for-1 ratio of what we're calling GetBlok governance tokens, GBGT. That token, it goes directly into your wallet as Erg does, right? So as you mine one Erg, you get one token. That token goes into your wallet. You accumulate them over a period of time. We're going to open up a voting session at the end of this week. So once that voting session is open, it will be a simple UI interface where, the miner will go onto our website. There'll be an option for a yes vote or a no vote. They'll select which vote they want. Up will pop up a QR code with an address that they can scan, just on the current mobile wallet. And they send their tokens to that address. And then, in a sense, they place their vote. That goes into a holding box. Consider it a ballot box, right? And then at the end of the vote, we tally up those votes, and whatever the decision is, it is, right? So if the miners on our pool determine that, we are supporting the soft fork EIP27, we'll be configuring our node, and we will be, supporting the P27. It's as simple as that. There is a little bit of a point of differentiation with our proof of vote tokens. So, who's to say that we're going to, follow the protocol and place the right vote, right? That would be obviously a concern of the miner. We're in control. We can configure the node to whatever we want, right? We created a system within the smart contract that, provides incentive for the mining operator, for GetBlok, to place the right vote. Otherwise, we can no longer find blocks on our mining pool, which in a sense makes our mining pool useless. So obviously we have a large incentive to submit the votes as they've been submitted by our miners. And it's keeping us honest. It's holding us, true to what we're saying that we're doing.
Yeah. And I think that's actually, people don't, I don't think people put enough emphasis and really, realize just how nuanced incentives mechanisms are. For example, what you just said, how to incentivize proper governance. Because it's so easy to manipulate. It's so easy to just kind of, do what you want, Oh yeah, thanks for your input. We're still going to do whatever we want. So like I said, it's very important to be able to set that up. I mean, what are your thoughts, Joe?
Well, most of the time people have thought proof of work governance is dumb, right? That's an assumption that people have made based on existing systems. Now, if you look at, the miner experience, Ethereum burned the shit out of their miners with, basically saying, hey guys, thanks for, investing in rigs and securing our chain. But by the way, we've decided to change consensus. And that has left a really sour taste in the mouth of a lot of miners. You were talking about people that have put hundreds of thousands of dollars into, let's say a farm or a relatively large operation. To get burned like that, that's got to be something that keeps you up at night, to be honest, especially if you go into that with a lot of liability. Now, one thing that I'm in a unique position, okay? So I want to get, let's say, Ergo in a place where mining pools can deliver value to miners, right? And if mining pools can deliver value to miners are going to be profitable. And if miners are profitable, they have the incentive to mine. So working with small pools and saying, okay, let's try to create new mechanisms of value creation that incentivizes miners and also makes them profitable, which then makes Ergo secure, is a win all the way around. And, GetBlok specifically is really pushing the boundaries of what proof of work in a mining pool does. A lot of mining pools are, they're well established. They kind of, let's say, are the middlemen for multiple proof of work chains. And so they don't really have much incentive to do much beyond what they're doing. Their profit model is pretty much baked in, right? And so I call that area of the cryptocurrency space stale. Delivering just the ability to vote as an individual is a powerful thing. And, versus saying, okay, well, what is the mining pool going to say? And, I have tried to engage pools and say, pull your miners, get feedback I want, governance to be in the hands of the people that are investing in our network, in physical reality in terms of hardware and electricity and have costs. I want them to win. And so working with a partner that can deliver value to the end miner is probably one of the most important things that I do.
Ease of use is a big thing for us, right? I mean, it's providing that level to the end user where they're not confused, right? They can literally just go onto a web page, click a button. They don't have to do all these convoluted things to place a vote, right? It's very straightforward. It's like walking into a ballot box, placing your vote, and you're done, right? It's as simple as that. So taking the complexity out of things like this is also a big win for us as well.
UX versus backend, as far as the commercial aspect goes, is 80-20. It's 80 UX, 20 backend. It's just the reality of the thing, okay? You could have the biggest piece of shit app that does virtually nothing. It's just a bunch of screens. But you have a great UX, you make people think that it's got that power behind them, but all it is like you just click through a bunch of screens, and that's going to get a higher rating that something's got a massive amount of functionality, but has a really, really crappy UX. It's all about that user experience. It goes a long way. Yeah, but if you can actually find that balance, like what it seems like you're doing, find that balance between an easy to use UX and a powerful utility. I mean, that's like a marriage made in heaven, I think.
Yeah, it's a win-win for sure.
So from what I hear, proof of vote is just step one in your longer term goals of, let's say, bringing tools and providing value to your miners. What else are you working on?
Sure. So yeah, proof of vote was, I think at this point it was a way to just kind of get the concept out there, right? What can we use these smart contracts for? Timing was right. EIP 27 was right around the corner, so it was a perfect way to showcase that, right? But that's not where it stops by any means. I mean, again, it's literally a framework for multiple future projects, right? I mean, I can see ourselves partnering up with several other projects that are out there currently that are, tokenizing, their assets, right? Adding value to the ecosystem, creating another form of an asset that a miner could potentially mine in conjunction with Erg, right? Think of a dual asset stream where, the miner doesn't have to sacrifice hash power to, mine Ergo and Ethereum, so to speak, right? It can be done, but you're basically dissecting your hash power, into two to, provide it to both blockchains. So, we're currently in discussions with, a few developers out there that are, currently working in the ecosystem. We also have a project that we're working on where we could potentially distribute NFTs on the pool, right? So think of that, a mining pool where you're mining NFTs. Never been done before. I mean, talk about providing value. I mean, that's something so innovative right there that I can't think of anything out there, in the space that's doing anything like this, right? So it's that disruptive marketing. It's, doing things completely different, adding a layer of innovation that, as you said, Joe, mining pools, they're just, they're worried about that fee at the end of the day. And that's not what we're about. Yeah, we do charge a fee, right? Operating a mining pool, it's not free by any means. There's, servers that need to be launched all over the world. So there is an expense to it. We are covering some of those expenses. I would say to date, we probably haven't, covered a single penny. Everything's been out of pocket. We've been using the fees to give back to the community, right? So block bounties, raffles, things like that, where, we're taking these fees and we're giving back, right? We're trying to, literally grow a community within a community of miners that, want to pave the way for the future of mining. And I think, beyond the proof of vote tokens and any potential, projects that we look to explore with other developers, there's much more beyond that. I mean, we always say, limitations are endless here, right? I mean, we could literally, anything that you can think of that would tie into a smart contract, we can launch on our pool. Hash rate lending. We've talked about subpooling, right? That's, a method where miners can pool their power together in a subpool and in a sense solo mine together, where that currently isn't possible. So people, they want to share their hash power, they want to take the rewards and split them up evenly. We're giving them the option to have flexible payments. They can come onto a subpool, they can give the full block reward to one person and rotate that. Again, options are they're endless here. I mean, there's a lot that we can do with smart contracts and with the smart pool. But I think the main focus for now would be obviously tokens, or a big, I would say it's a big concept for us. We have a lot of excitement around it. We have a lot of interest within the smart pool, and I think we can provide a whole new level of value that no other mining pool is doing currently.
So does that mean potentially if I created a project that had actual use utility value and I wanted to launch in a way that was fairly distributed, I could partner with you and say, okay, I'm going to peg, let's say in the proof of vote concept, I'm going to peg my asset to the reward mechanism of Erg and then mint a token, just like you do with proof of vote, and potentially launch directly to miners in a decentralized way, to where, I could kind of follow the path that Ergo took when it came to market and, essentially have a fair launch token.
That's absolutely right. So all that would be needed would be, liquidity provided to the mining pool. We would enter those tokens into the smart contract, and they would be distributed based on however we set up the smart contract. It could be 1-for-1. It could be any, ratio that we would like to set this up for. And yeah, it is fair, completely fair distribution, right? I mean, we've seen some issues with, currently the way that tokens are distributed through airdrops. There's a lot of, cheating, I guess I would say, in a sense, right? Multiple addresses by single users. It just doesn't create a fair environment by any means. And, I think that we can change that with our smart contracts within the smart pool.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, just as a side note, about 5 minutes ago, you might have seen something fly past my screen here. Maybe you didn't. Well, that is because this whole time, Leo has been here. Leo has been on my lap the whole time. This guy, yeah, I know, I'm talking about you. So just, say hi to everybody. This is Leo. He's here. He's always here. Okay, I'm never alone. Never, ever, ever, ever alone. Anyway, well, what are your thoughts, Joe, on kind of voting as a service type of scenario in a proof of work setting? How would you say? How feasible do you think that is?
I think it's feasible. The question is, how are you going to engage the people that are voting? That's always the hardest thing. I can look at EIP 27 as a good example because it's relevant to everything we're talking about. We can go out and we can say, hey, you need to vote. And, this is your options. These are what you should consider. We tried to do pre-rounds of voting. And, we did have decent engagement. We did have a pretty good discussion, but it was less than I anticipated. Now, that is one thing that I think is kind of a chronic issue, is that everyone wants to be in a DAO, but no one wants to run it, right? It's easy to have a mechanism to vote, but how many people are going to go out of their way to figure out what they're voting for and why they're voting for it, and go kind of through that grind to where you refine your idea to something that says, okay, now I know why I'm making my decision. That's hard. But, decentralization, in my opinion, is collective localization, where if you have local power, local responsibility, and then you collectively build with that, you can accomplish a lot. But it does take responsibility for that power. And then it's a matter of saying, okay, well, how do we get people to use that? And then in a good way. That's even harder than just using it.
I think it's a combination, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well, Rob. I think it's a combination of making the case for relevance, saying that this directly impacts your ability to do X, Y, Z in the ecosystem, combined with ease of use, combined with a non-intimidating UX, a usability scenario where it's easy. It's something that you don't need to have any knowledge beyond of how to use your smartphone for. What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
I think that's definitely needed, right? I mean, as I mentioned before, I think ease of use goes a long way with the end user, right? If it's complicated, they're just going to turn away from it and not even bother, right? So I think ease of use is one of the major things, but also communication, right? How do you get that message out there? How do you get to the end user? Use social media, use, various forms of mediums, but how do you truly get that message out there, right? I mean, for us, you look at miners, right? There's miners that probably haven't even looked at their rig or been in a social media or chat room in months, right? They're mining. They set their rigs, they forget about them, they go on their day-to-day life, right? So it's getting that message out there that's also just as important, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well, so, and I know we already spoken about this, but can you elaborate a little bit more on some more future use cases of GetBlok? What do you think? Where do you see yourself in? And I know kind of a cliche question, right? Where do you see GetBlok in 5 years? How do you see yourself growing? What are your ambitions here?
So, I mean, obviously, for the time being, we are staying within the Ergo ecosystem. We will continue to build off of the ecosystem and solve a few use cases that we have identified. Again, I think, the three platforms that we're kind of leaning on would be, one, token distribution, right? That's kind of currently in process, and we're going to continue to build on that. Subpooling will be the next phase, in my opinion. That's providing, again, solo mining for the end user with flexible payments. And then beyond that, it's, how can we leverage the smart pool, right? And the smart contracts within, and provide some future use cases for an end user that's not a miner, right? So we've explored hash rate lending, where potentially, a non-miner can borrow hash rate from a miner. At the same time, they'll look to give some sort of upfront incentive to the miner, so a miner can collect fees immediately, while the investor, at the same time, they can find a way to start mining cryptocurrency without having to make the major investment in equipment. So there's a lot to figure out in that sense, but I think that's where our main focus is going to be, at least short term. And then beyond that, we would like to, obviously add some additional, coins onto, the smart pool concept. And our thought process right now is to currently stick within the UTXO Alliance. There's a few blockchains that we have our eyes on. But I think, for now, it's going to be, sole focus on Ergo. I would say at least for the next year or two. And then, we'll see where things go, and we'll look to expand beyond that. But again, for now, I think, our heart is within the Ergo community, and we're going to continue to build on that as much as we can.
Every time somebody says UTXO Alliance, I keep thinking back to Star Wars, like, you are part of the UTXO Alliance and a traitor. Take her away. I just think of that. I'm weird. I watch too much TV. It's just anyway. Let's. Thank you, and that is actually it's very important to be able to take this solution, or at least in my book, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, Joe. But in my book, it's important to be able to not only optimize decentralization and governance, but also strive for interoperability. because interoperability is also something that is crucial for our movement to gain the momentum and to be where it is. So it's very important to be able to kind of be flexible, interoperable. I mean, what do you guys think about that? What are your thoughts on that?
If a mining pool, let's say, has the ability to run smart contracts, they have the ability to mine multiple tokens, it naturally puts them in a position to be a actor in DeFi. I know that Rob here was talking about hash rate lending, right? You could create a bond product that essentially that's what I would call what a hash rate lending is you create a bond product where you buy the bond up front and then for X amount of time you earn rewards, right? And that could potentially be something that actually does go, into another ecosystem, or you may have side chains that require security, right? Well, you can create kind of a merged mining setup. You could run proof of stake side chain that is mined by proof of work. You can do all kinds of really unique ways of building on top of that base consensus that the miners are anchoring for us. And ideally, if we can deliver value to the mining pools in terms of the governance aspect of Ergo and how they can adjust block sizes and other parameters, and we can also put them in a position to where they pass that profit on to the miners. That creates a system where everybody wins. It's a really interesting question long term. Like, what does the security incentive in proof of work need to look like? I'm not sure that talk about maximalism. Like, it would be amazing if some guy or group of people or whoever Satoshi Nakamoto was created the perfect let's say security incentive for a blockchain that held for X amount of years without needing to be adapted because it didn't become, because profitability was lost, essentially. Distributed systems are not necessarily built on, let's say, ethics or kindness, or they're built on, economic incentive. So it's a matter of saying, how do we deliver economic incentive to the miners that are securing our network? That's a big challenge that EIP 27 specifically is trying to address for Ergo long term. Because if miners, let's say, are not profitable, they don't have an incentive to mine that particular chain. So, in terms of having a stable network, that's really one of the most important questions we can ask is proof of work.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts, Rob?
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree. I think, as you lose, right, that level of security, which in turn would be, drop of miners, right? It makes the system, it lacks security, it lacks sufficiency, it lacks a lot of things, right? So I think, providing a separate revenue stream to miners outside of, what they're currently mining, whether it's a token or some form of a pool swap, right? Where they can, mine Erg and swap it with, any other token within a decentralized exchange or even a centralized exchange. I think that brings a lot of value to mining. And I think that is the future of mining, right? Because as you want to increase that network security, especially with the volatility within the market right now, it's providing another level of, potential earnings for the miner where, they want to continue to mine on that blockchain. They want to continue to, support the network and improve security at the end of the day, right? That's what it's all about. So, I think that, for us, it's finding ways to provide that additional incentive to the miners. And, we're open, as I mentioned, to, collaborate with other developers, with other projects. We would even, be willing to utilize GetBlok almost as an incubator, right? if someone has an idea that they think fits within, the concept of GetBlok Smart Pool, I mean, we're willing to invest and, get behind that project if it adds value, right? If it adds value to the end user. That's something that, again, we're currently exploring, even with an Ergo hack team right now. They're developing a project that could potentially be implemented right within the pool almost immediately. So, we're again definitely open to projects in that nature, and we're willing to get behind it in a major way.
And that's really good to hear. That's really I really respect projects that are that have in the roadmap an understanding that you do have to work with the ecosystem and give back to the ecosystem. And it's not about charity; it's about putting that into your business case, because it's very important for business such as ours to have it in there, so that you could then use community as support to then propel your project even further. I think it's very, very important. Well, I think we're this is a good place to I guess leave things off. Joe, Rob, do you have any last comments for the people watching?
Sure, I'm excited to see what GetBlok is putting together, and I would encourage miners to at least try. Now, one thing that I want to point out in mining is that when you're mining to a little pool, you have to aggregate, let's say, your hash rate versus rewards over time. It's not always going to be as profitable in one day as, let's say, a larger pool is, but over time, it finds an equilibrium to where if I join a small pool, I might get 1 block today and 5 blocks tomorrow. And so, the payout over time equalizes. A lot of people will say, I want to support small pools and sign up real quick, and then say, hey, what the hell? When I was with these guys, we were hitting blocks a lot more regularly. It's not always the case supporting small pools. It does take a certain patience, but a lot of the times they deliver better community, better value than the bigger ones.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, we've faced that challenge, being a small pool. And I think that, the understanding needs to be, at the end of the day, it should all balance out, right? I mean, we've heard stories, where miners who have been on our pool from day one, they average it out over, a course of 3 months, and they feel that they're actually more profitable than larger pools. So I think it's just a matter of perception, right, at this point. If you're looking to support decentralization and support small pools, I mean, we feel like we're the pool to go to, right? We're paving the way for innovation, and we're going to do a lot of great things, here within the Ergo ecosystem. So we're very excited about what we've done to date, and I think with the collaboration of others, we can continue to bring this to the next level.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, same here. Amazing work. And I myself are really looking forward to seeing what GetBlok accomplishes in the next few months and the next 5 years, actually. All of this is very exciting. I'd like to thank you for joining us today, Rob.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Joe, thank you for putting up with my nonsense.
Yeah, thanks for bringing Leo.
Yeah. And I think this is a good place to leave it off. So, everybody, this is Dan from Japan, and I'm here to bring Ergo into the top 10. And with me is Leo, my right-hand man. Signing off.
Take care, everyone.